Welcome back. This is the final of the Student StarCraft AI Tournament 2015. We have got as the White Zerg Killerbot by Marian Diveka from Slovakia, and we have got as the Purple Protoss, it is Ximp by Thomas Vaida, also from Slovakia. And if I told you that Ximp won the 2013 finals and placed second behind Literbot in the 2014 finals, how can it be otherwise but the best and uttermost favorite in this matchup? Before we return to Ximp, there is something I have to tell you about Killerbot, because Marian Diveka came back after 2 years of inactivity to update his pride and glory Killerbot, which used to be very good with neuters and lurkers, and is now one of the most aggressive and strongest and highest wing rated bot on the scene. What you are seeing here is not players, human players playing the most beautiful game in the world. It is bots, it's robots, it is artificial intelligence playing this most beautiful game in the world, and it is very hard for them to do so. They have also, well, they've got the same rules as humans, and they cannot see what humans couldn't see if they were playing the game. They do not get extra minerals, they have to mine everything themselves, and they have to scout themselves. Here, for example, we see a small drone trying to find the enemy. Or at least I think that is what it's doing. An Overlord doing the same thing, and Protoss going for a forge first with a pylon. Of course you need a pylon, otherwise you can't build a forge. And what will we get next? We'll get a cannon next. Meanwhile, Zerg is going for a fast expansion and some more scouting action. If you have been paying attention to the game, to the minimap, Protoss hasn't scouted at all. And I'm not yet going to reveal what Ximp does for a living, but after this game you will know, and you'll know why it is so terribly good with it. That said, Ximp hasn't been updated for 2 years either. There have been some very minor modifications in last year's tournament. For example, it does something quite insignificant now in its main base, but the main game plan has been unchanged, and it has it's reached an ELO rating of, well, I think it was 5,000 or 6,000, and that is the standard ELO rating for whatever, and that is a measure of how dominant it was. It's no longer that much of a force, but still it is absolutely gorgeous to watch, and being able to place in the round of 2 in the grand finals of the biggest AI tournament after 2 years of not being updated is really something. Now we'll get some Zerglings for Killerbot, and otherwise a lot of drones and a quick third base as well, so that's very interesting. Meanwhile, an Overlord is going to have a peek at the Protoss base, and now it's going to see the Nexus being placed. So that's very interesting. I can switch around a bit with the camera, and that way we'll get to follow the game through the eyes of Killerbot. Now, this was originally going to be a dual cast with Adam Heinerman. Adam Heinerman is the author of Brute War API. That is the piece of software which lets coding, that is scripts in C++ or Java, interact with the game Brute War. But unfortunately he had some computer problems, so he had to call it a day. That is very unfortunate. There was so much I could have asked and so much we could have admired together, because these are the two very best bots in existence right now, because the Student StarCraft AI tournament is, well, it's the biggest tournament. We had 42 bots competing this year, and they have been playing a round of robin, a round of 16, round of 8, a round of 4, and these are the top 2 bots which emerge, and they are absolutely glorious to behold. Meanwhile, we've got a lot of drones being produced by Killerbot and a lot of minerals stacked up as well. What have we here? Another hatchery, so that is a hell of a lot of hatcheries. I don't really... That is a very interesting build, because there is so little gas being mined. And here we see, well, what do we see? The natural being populated, or no, a simulator being built, and more cannons being put into place. And this Overlord should really venture a little bit more south, then it can see what's happening in the main base. I'm Well, perhaps it will now. I don't know. Yeah, no, perhaps. I think it's going there and it's going to see a Stargate, and if it sees a Stargate, because Killerbot is a very adaptive bot, so if it will react to what it scouts, so it now sees a Stargate and perhaps it will think, well, if we've got a Stargate, we'll need something to deal with airborne units. But then again, only one Stargate, that might just be one gate Ser. Oh, and here we'll see another Stargate, and that is a tip of the veil of what Ximp is doing. That is another pylon. It's now moving out of the way. We've got 3 bases almost saturated here. Saturation here is fine as well. And now we've got a Hydra den. So, kind of a build will we now see out of? Ooh, Hydra speed before any Hydras. That's interesting. And more drones. More drones, more drones. We need more drones. You require more drones. Meanwhile, the base of Protoss has been scouted and nothing is being built here. Another Overlord is coming over to pin down the exact location of the cannons, to count them perhaps, because both these bots can make a calculation. Well, do I have enough units to kill the enemy, or do I need to do something else? That said, what we see? Nope, another pylon. So at this point Zerg doesn't really know what's going on, but as I'm casting this game not from a Zerg perspective, let me show you like this. We've got a lot of probes, a handful of zealots and a fleet beacon. Fleet beacon, 2 gates, stargates, that is one gateway, and another stargate. So that's very interesting thing to do, and a 4th base coming up for Zerg. Now, Evo chamber, hatchery, and that's Hydra range. And we see the first Hydras being produced, and one here as well. And Overlord speed. So it looks like this is going to be some kind of an air build with I don't know what. What do you need for a fleet beacon? Arbiters, but you need Templar tech. No, it is going to be carriers, and that is what Ximp does. Ximp will sit back behind its cannon wall, attack the carriers, and take over the enemy base or whatever it's got. And that is very effective, because as these are not human players, you have to either code something very specifically to counter carriers, or you have to deal something which can generalize enough to be able to deal with a mothership with a lot of smaller other ships, which does things all over the place and moves around like crazy. And now we see a constant trickling in of Hydralisks with the, that was the attack range finishing. Hydra speed has been done for a long time, and it looks like Killerbot is now just pressing H, has been pressing H for a bit, and we've got a small force of Hydras. Meanwhile, nothing much is being built here. Overlord speed nearly done, and a lot of oh golly, a lot of money stacked, and that's more drones, 4th base. Look at all these hatcheries. That is a bit of a disadvantage, because if you're going to tech to carriers, you have got a lot of time in your hands to, as an enemy, to devise a counter strategy. No, going for the cannons. One cannon will be taken down, and a lot of Hydras will die because of it. And I don't think that was a good move, but perhaps it needed to free up some supply, or I don't know what is. How many drones do you need in heaven? This is like watching Liquid Red or Jost Krohn play in his early StarCraft 2 days. It's just droning, king of drones. That is really something. The goons come off the line to fend off these overlords, which are now have speed, and the Hydras are we're only after this probe. And now we've got 1, 2, 3 carriers, and that's it, and a handful of goons. The gateway is not doing much, but we've now got two bases versus 1, 2, 3, 4, soon to be 5. And what will we see more? We'll see more Hydras. So this is going to be a 5-base Hydra versus a 2-base carrier. Have you ever seen that or anything like that in professional Brood War? You haven't. I assure you, you haven't. You cannot possibly have. And although some of these Hydras are being cut up in groups of 1, if you look at the minimap, there is so much going on. So now the Protoss is moving out with the carriers, and the Hydras are retreating because they're estimating they cannot win this fight. And now they're going in for the cannons, the cannons, the cannons, the cannons. One cannon down. There are 5 left, 5 cannons left, and some lings as well. 4 cannons left, and there are. I don't think the cannons can hold this, but meanwhile Ximp is attacking the central base of Zerg, and now the Hydras are going to clean it up. Are they going to clean it up? I don't know. Meanwhile, more carriers are being produced, the 3rd base is being taken, and the entire map is awash with drones, with Hydras, and now the probes are falling. The probes are falling. The base has not been broken, but the probe transfer is being attacked, and that is something not so good, because Protoss needs a hell of a lot of minerals to build interceptors. And as you can see, we've got four carriers being attacked by a lot of Hydras. The place is awash with Hydras. The interceptors are dying. Protoss is very low on minerals, and now the carriers themselves are being attacked. They haven't. Well, they have got. Oh dear, this is very interesting. And the cannons are being rebuilt, so Protoss now is very low on minerals. And meanwhile, we've got 5 bases. This base has not really been attacked. The mining has not been disturbed, and the carriers are now falling. And Protoss is 85 supply, 86. Zerg, meanwhile, at 121, and that is quite interesting if you know that all these units have been Hydras, or are Hydras and drones. Look at all the drones, look at the saturation. That is absolutely marvelous. We've got the attack upgrade for Hydras coming up, and they've got one already, so this poor carrier has found a safe spot, but any interceptor is going to send out is going to die soon and quickly to these Hydras. And now the 3rd base is found and under attack. What I've got in the main base, we've got 2 more carriers, 3 more carriers, and building interceptors, but now the main base for Protoss is running out, and this is what the 3rd base looks like. And if your 3rd base looks like this, with that many enemy Hydras in it, it is not going well at all. And here come the carriers trying to stem the tide. There are only 3, and they are still building interceptors. And look at this morass of Hydras. It is one big slime pool, and they are, well, it's called needles what they are spitting. Well, I always imagine it being slime, but they can't really. You can't. 160 versus 70, and it's all in Hydras. Look at this. The map is awash in Hydras and drones. We've got more bases being built. We've got more bases being taken. Defensive structures being put up. Everything is scouted. Zerg has got this locked down. The Hydras are everywhere. They are into the natural, and they're being streamed into the main base. And if you look at it like this, there is a constant stream of red entering Protoss base, and we've got Hydras in the 3rd, we've got Hydras in the natural, Hydras all over the place. And this can only go one way, because if your main is looking like this, your 3rd is looking like this, and your natural is looking like this, you are not in for a sweet ride. The carriers took too long, and Killerbot has devised the perfect strategy to beat it. Now, a small struggle at the ramp. This Dragoon on its own can't really get any kills in, and these carriers, well, what can they do? What can they do? They are hanging there, and they've only got this much mineral production to build interceptors, but I don't think they're even attacking. They've grown catatonic. They can't deal with this. Their view of the world is shaken so much. All these Hydras, they can't imagine what to do. And while this bunch of Hydras keeps the enemy locked down, this bunch of Hydras killing the main nexus, killing the last goon, and well, this one pylon will not be able to hold off all these Hydras. It's simply not possible. And look at it. It's 200, and it's Hydras and drones. Hydras, drones, and overlords, and I don't think, oh well, there is a single Zergling. One Zergling, a lot of drones, and a hell of a lot of Hydras, and that is the game. Because these carriers are now being chased back and forth between these 2 armies of Hydras, and these are armies. These are, we've got 30 here, and 30, 40, 50, 60 Hydras here, and still more are streaming in. We've got about 10, 20 here, more coming in. And if you look at the rate at which Zerg is now stockpiling money, it's crazy. It is almost like watching watching an oil state in boom time, just pumping out oil and cashing for dollars. Of course, now it's not really all that good of a business anymore, but Killerbot is wiping the floor with Hydras. It's wiping Ximp with Hydras, and we've got 2 carriers left. We have got no more supply, so it doesn't really count, but we've got 12 left in the form of these 2 carriers, and there goes the last one. And the Observer, will the Observer survive? No, it won't. And there goes the last building, and these two observers will not survive. What have we left? We've got a forge, and we've got an assimilator. We've got a Zerg with 5k, 4k stacked and maxed on Hydras, taking the first game. Killerbot takes the first game of Simp. Marion Diveka triumphs over Thomas Weider in the first game. Of course, this is a best of 5, so let's see what the next game will bring. And we have got the second game. And the second game, of course, we've got again our brown Protoss called Ximp, coded by Thomas Weider from Slovakia. And we have got as orange our Zerg, which is Killerbot from Marion Diveka, and also from Slovakia. So this is the Slovakian finals of the biggest Brood War AI final tournament in the world. We had 42 bots, of which these two emerged as being the best, and the question is, what are we going to see? What are we going to see? If you are just tuning into us, let me explain what this is all about. This is about the most beautiful game in the world, StarCraft Brood War by Blizzard Entertainment from 1998. Almost 20 years later, the human pro scene has died down a little bit, also with Sonic or Hwang Yo-jin from Korea with his Svenu shoe brand being investigated for fraud. That's a bit of a pity, but he had been putting the card so hard, and now we've only got a smattering of ex-pro players playing for balloons on Africa. And well, we've got the Van stuff. We've got a couple of leagues in Korea, but it's not as big as it used to be. About, well, shall I say 10-12 years ago, there was a pro league. There were 2 television channels dedicated to broadcasting StarCraft Brood War in Korea. These players were sometimes making millions of dollars a year, and now all that's left of it is just a bunch of old gamers going into military service. And one of the things left from StarCraft Brood War is this tournament, this scene of AIs, of artificial intelligences playing it, and of students, PhDs, masters, bachelors, everything you've got, you name it, and other enthusiasts coding these bots to play against each other. And it is once again one of the most beautiful things in the world. As you may know, chess has been solved for computer play, so humans can no longer beat computer players, but StarCraft Brood War is no longer there. We have just seen the man versus machine match. The best human players will slap around the best bots, no questions asked, and what we've just broadcast was an average player against one of the best bots, and that is about equal. That's about, well, I'd say 70% in favor of the human. So that's where we are now, but this of course is a game between 2 AIs. These AIs have no mineral hacks, they have no vision hacks. Don't be deceived by the fact that we are broadcasting in HD. The bots only see what they themselves see, so if I were to switch to the view of the Protoss, the only thing it would know of the map is where the enemy was and what it's got itself now, and that is Nexus pylon, gateway being built, 2 cannons, a forge for early defense, and the rest it doesn't know. So if it wants to attack, it will need to find the enemy. It can't, it hasn't got some kind of map hack, it hasn't got any kind of hack. The only, well, there are 2 requirements really. One is that the games only last 90 minutes. If there is no clear winner by 90 minutes, the game will end, and the winner will be determined by the score screen, and that is based on how much enemies you've killed, buildings raised, and minerals mined, things like that. If there is a winner within 90 minutes, there is one more rule you must not break, and that is you mustn't slow the game down too much. So this game has been played like many others. If you visit our live stream, as you can follow the address on the bottom, you can watch games 24/7. But these games have been played on a server somewhere in Prague. Michael Sarticki, the director of this tournament, has it running as one of the perks of his teaching position at the Czech Technical University. But these games are being played on virtual machines, and well, the replays are automatically stored, so it's a very sterile environment. The only thing left for us humans to do aside from the coders and all the people who keep the infrastructure running, and of course the caster, is to admire. And one last thing that these computers can do, if you watch our live stream on our website, you can find it at the bottom. The observer there is also automated, so it's got a number of rules to make it focus on things. So if there's a battle somewhere or a concentration of units, it will focus on that. Okay, so last game we saw Ximp hide behind its cannons, tack up to carriers and try to take over the world. It got up to 4 carriers and almost it attacked one Zerg base, but it wasn't really fast enough, so it got beaten back. Meanwhile, Zerg is going for a handful of Zerglings this time. Last game it were Hydras and a lot of bases. And look at this, we've got 3 hatches and no drones. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And so this is, it looks like Killerbot, because the Zerg is called Killerbot, has got Ximp's number, because there isn't coming any carrier out of this base for quite some time, and it's now taking bases all over the place, building hatcheries, and generally macroing up like a champion. 4th base already, even while the 3rd base isn't really up and saturated. There is no tech, we've got 2 Sunkens and that's about it. And we've got, as only tech, we've got a spawning pool with link speed. I don't know why you would want to do that. But if you can pump out quite a number of links from all these hatcheries, I think own the Hydra Den. I think you could storm this handful of cannons by force. If you, what have you got? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hatched Zergling pump with speed versus 7. Well, you need to be quick about it, because as the number of cannons increases, it will be increasingly harder to break them by Zergling force. But again, if you've got Hydras, it will be more interesting, because Hydras of course have range and do surprisingly well against cannon. And there we go, we've got the Hydra speed coming up as well. We've got Overlords, 2 of them, and Zerg is supply block, so as soon as these 2 Overlords pop... Okay, well we've got some more drones of course, but we didn't have enough drones yet. And even at the main base, more drones are being built, and they're then being transferred to I don't know where. Meanwhile, this handful of lings, well it's 5, that's exactly a handful, are keeping tabs on these cannons being constructed. Meanwhile, Ximp is going for its bread and butter. Here comes the Stargate, here soon carriers will be produced. And that is going to be the game again. Will the carriers be soon enough that they can deal damage before the Hydra numbers are too large, so that the carriers won't be able to do anything anymore? And look at that, wow, that is quite a number of sunken colonies. I don't really know what they are for. That's Overlord speed, more drones, and each base will be protected by 2 sunken colonies. Perhaps it's because the Zerg player scouted this small ground army, but I think it should be preparing for the carriers, because they are now being built. And although it will take a little while before they are done, that is another gateway, so that is a slight divergence in the build order of Protoss. Perhaps it's going for a stronger ground composition, and there has been an update which I have missed. Meanwhile, more drones. Hello. More drones, more Overlords. We've got 62 supply, of which 56 are now drones. And the only question remaining is, when will Killerbot start producing Hydras? It's got the money. More drones. Oh. Okay, well that's 1 Hydra at least. 1 Hydra and a hell of a lot of drones. And here's some Hydras and Overlords as well. 70 supply blocks, very good. More Hydras, drones, so this is going to be about Hydras, drones and Overlords. And there come the first Hydras. They are moving out, and Hydra attack damage is being researched. Where is the Hydra Den? I think it may be fair to assume that like last game, we've got Hydra speed. I've got Hydra speed, yeah, I think that's Hydra speed. They are fast enough, and that we've got Hydra range as well. And more hatcheries. This is insane. Just take another main base and building it full of hatcheries. That's interesting. Oh, now we've got mutas as well, so that will be a slightly different composition. Meanwhile, that other gateway, Protoss build, Xim build, is not really being used, and we've got carriers. So, main difference being this game that all the bases are being defended by 2 sunken colonies, which will take drones and minerals and slow down your build. And hello, another base. And that we have got. Oh god, we are not going to do it with mutas this time. We are going to with hydras. We are going to do it with mutas. And I can only hope that versus this many cannons and carriers and 4-gate Corsair, that this is going to do anything at all, because oh god, this might be the most cost-inefficient war ever fought, because Mutalisks can't possibly do well against anything, and especially not against Corsairs. I can't see this happening, really. Where I need to do 2 kills on this Corsair, 1 kill on that one, and all the mutas are in bad health. 110 supply for the Zerg and 80 for the Protoss. Now the carriers are running into Hydras, but as the Hydras have not reached critical numbers because there is so much money being poured into Mutalisks and drones. Why on earth would you need... Okay, so the Mutalisks are done now and the carriers are battling mutas in small groups, but... Oh, the mutas aren't done yet, not completely. And we've got more Corsairs coming, that is interesting. They're very expensive in gas. But these carriers are fighting their way through to the bottom. And a lot of Hydras are just being transferred and not really attacking, so that's not really working out well. And the third base being taken for Protoss. Once these cannons get up, and this one, no, this is not working. 3 kills, 5 kills on this Corsair, that's very good. These carriers are doing damage, they've got a lot of kills and all these Hydras are being picked off piecemeal. More, oh god, how many? Okay, so sometimes this happens in AI battles. You've got, they've got unlimited APM, Xim now at 500 something, Killerbot at 1350. So there is stuff going on all over the place. So what you need to do sometimes is look at the supplies. Protoss at 94, Terran Zerg at 115. Oh, and that is no. They are focusing the probes. You must kill the cannons first, and the base almost got taken. And now there is a flock of Hydras moving into this position to intercept all these carriers. But look at the kill numbers they've been racking up. Meanwhile, what is going on here? We've got more Corsairs coming, but there isn't really any air anymore for Zerg. There isn't any more air, and there are a lot of probes dead. So this game is a little bit slower. And now we've got the Hydra numbers. So the Hydras are now entering the base, which is under attack, and the interceptors are dying. These carriers need to retreat as soon as possible, or they need to be reinforced. But this carrier's hull is now under attack, and these interceptors are all dead, and Protoss is low on minerals. So that's what you have now. Protoss at 96 supply, Zerg at 123, and Climby, because this base is operational, this base is operational, the main is well saturated but not yet mined out. And this is a 3 base versus, okay, now the Corsairs come, but there isn't really anything to fight for them, so nope. That and the Observer, no, you can't fight Hydras with Corsairs, that's not working. And you can't take hits because you wanted to have a poke at an Overlord, you can't do that. So third base being invested by Zerg, because hell, why not? 144, Protoss meanwhile at 95, and okay, the Corsairs are finished and now it's back to carriers. Meanwhile the main is mined out, and if you've got no carriers and there is, oh god, there it goes. Your third is under attack by a lot of Hydras. You need to hold the third because your main will be mined out soon, and this Zerg is all over the place and screaming Hydras from A to B. Oh golly, that is... well, that was a better game than last game by Protoss. A little bit more aggression, forcing Zerg to defend a little bit more. But now the third under attack, and well, have we got carriers? No, not yet. They are so slow in building. It's a very good plan, it's an excellent plan, but you need to... sometimes you need to be faster, and I don't know if Zerg is going to... of course, eventually it will have enough Hydras to break even this. Oh, and even clean up some power generators. God knows why, I don't really know why you should do that. The third is down. The natural is under attack by huge numbers of hydras, and I don't think that this is going any other way than the first game. And all the power generators are being torn down as well. I don't know what that's about. I'll have to ask Marion. And for those of you wondering, Marion is Guy and not a lady, which I erroneously assumed in the last tournament he played in. So pardon me, Marion, for having a Western European frame of names. Last carrier with 1 interceptor, yeah, you can imagine how this is going. Protoss now at below 70 supply. Zerg doubling it, more than doubling it, and I don't think there is more money for anything. It's over. There is a throng of hydras queuing up the main base, the main ramp, and this is over. So being 1-0 up, Killabot is poised, and more. How many drones do you need? Goodness sake, another base. That is absolutely insane. How many more drones? What have you been smoking? You've got the map covered in hydras already. You are maxed now, and the only thing standing between you and total destruction are 2 cannons and a handful of carriers producing 1 interceptor at a time. And although the occasional hydra gets killed off, I don't think that well, the number here is blinking, the supply number. In the end, it's only blinking, and Protoss now at 31. Zerg is maxed, and look at the rate at which it's filling up the resources. It's insane. It's absolutely insane, and the buildings are being torn down, and these are only plus 2 hydras now, but this is butchery. Sheer butchery. Because Killabot is taking down Ximp with a lot of hydras, and the game is going in the same direction the first game was as well. And if I'm not very much mistaken, this is going to be a 2-0 for Marion Diveka's Killabot. Or will the observatory work a magical comeback? And now the carriers fly out their last interceptors, but it's not enough. Once more into the breach, my friends. And only 1 hydra is attacking the observatory, but even with 1 hydra, or 2 hydras, in the end, it will fall. And there it goes. GG, Ximp defeated by Killabot in the second game. This being a best of 5, we'll hop straight into the third game and find out if Ximp can pull a comeback. Perhaps on a bigger map or a smaller map it can do better, I don't know. And this is the third game. Will it be the last game, and will Ximp fall to, this time not Literbot, but Killabot by Marion Diveka? Of course, last year it was Literbot by Martin Royakkers, countryman of mine from the University of Maastricht, who won the tournament and beat Ximp in the finals. Now Ximp is back in the finals after having won it in 2013. Placing second in 2014, 2015. I don't really think it is adaptive enough to beat the rushing hydras of Killabot. And do pardon me for speeding this up a bit, because, well, not because I want to have it over with, but, well, let's not do that. This is the finals after all. Let's not speed it up. There is so much to tell. If you are just new into this, if you've just tuned in, this is the finals of the Student StarCraft AI Tournament 2015. You can find our link at the bottom. If you find it, if you follow it, you can watch games 24/7, which are being played automatically in a private server in Prague. That said, you can also start coding bots. You can learn to do how. There are some very good open source platforms. One of them is the University of Alberta bot by Dave Churchill. And from the University of Alberta, if that wasn't in the name already. And the other one is Oprimabot by Johan Hagelbeck from Sweden. I've forgotten which university he's teaching as an assistant professor at the moment. But both these bots, they can be edited by making changes in text files, or you can mess with the code and do any kind of crazy stuff. They got a Oprimabot especially has got a very good graphical interface. You can see what it's producing, what it's doing, what its next step is going to be, what its build order looks like, what its priorities are. Very beautiful pieces of machinery, and we have seen more and more bots being based on these two great open source platforms, especially University of Alberta bot that has got some great functionality. And more people are starting to do this for either for fun or for a degree in computer engineering or artificial intelligence. There are so many things you can do. Earlier we saw in the semi-finals, we saw Stone by Igor Dimitrievich, who did a terrain analysis project and used Brute War API to do that, and then made a bot for anyway, because there are so many aspects in Brute War API in the artificial intelligence of playing a really complex game like StarCraft Brute War. It's like chess, but it's real time, and the maps are so different from a chessboard. The number of possibilities are near infinite, and that has proven to be a huge challenge, because chess has been figured out for computers to beat humans, but StarCraft hasn't by a long shot. A couple of months ago, for the AIIDE tournament in Canada, for Brute War APIs like these as well, we had the Russian Gosu Gem 5 play one of the best bots, or a couple of the best bots actually, and he slapped them around like it wasn't. It was horrible to see. It was really not. It wasn't pretty. So we are nowhere near beating the best players, because the best Russian players are, well, it sounds a bit harsh, but in Korea there are players which would probably do the same thing to Gem 5 that Gem 5 did to our best AIs. But a couple of games ago in this broadcast we had a human player called Scorpion, and he was in, well, really D+ level, if not worse, IC Cup level, and that is about the average human Brute War player. And he played two very interesting matches against Litabot, that's last year's winner, and that was very interesting to see. So what these bots lack is a bit of varying gameplay. Most of them do the same thing over and over, and there are some attempts to be more adaptive. One of these is TSCMU. TSCMU has been doing crazy stuff with, well, it's been trying to do machine learning, but recently has also been working on Battle Code. That is a custom designed RTS by the MIT, which has finals almost right now, I think. And it being from MIT, it's got a larger following and more prize money. It's just a lot bigger, and but it's not as beautiful a game. It's more basic, and Brute War is just the most complex thing for which there is a tournament for AIs to play. It's very, very gorgeous. But where was I? Okay, yeah, these bots usually do one thing very well. And take this one for example. XIMP, XIMP by Thomas Weider, is such a one-trick pony, and the trick it does is really astounding. It takes a glorious mind to think up something as elegant and simple as that. Just build a wall of cannons like this, and I think Gao Yuan Shen from University of San Francisco, I believe, tried to emulate this basic build a pylon and fill it up with cannons thing, but that's very hard to do for a start, to make a decent wall of cannons, to optimize that damage per surface area. That's not an easy thing to do at all, and then just build carriers after that and let them fly out over the map and try and kill the enemy. Now Killerbot has got a couple of more tricks up its sleeve, but it has got fixed build orders. So for example, I believe that versus XIMP, its build order is expand all over the map as long as you've got time, and once carriers hit, start producing hydras like there is no tomorrow and wipe the map with them. But TSCMU and some others, University of Alberta bots especially, well, not really. They have got, let me constrain myself to TSCMU. TSCMU got killed in the round of 8, and I believe it was by XIMP as well. But TSCMU is trying to do things from scratch. So just make a build order, make it up as you go along, and adapt it to scouting information, save in a memory bank what works and what doesn't, and then evolve your bot. And that's very interesting because ultimately that is going to lead to much better AIs in the long run. In the short run, brilliant ideas like this with a fixed build order, with a fixed plan of how to play this game and to do it every time, are still winning. And that is well, so you can say it's sad, but it really indicates the level of the state of the game we are at this moment. And I do think it's fair to honor this brilliant idea, and code-wise it hasn't been easy to implement it by having it. And as you can see, after not being updated for at least a year, or more realistically 2 or 3 years, it has placed in the finals of the biggest AI tournament for Brood War in the world. And here come the Hydras, but no, they are not having any of that. And that's also an interesting thing in the world of Brood War AI. You need to recognize if you've got this many Hydras and you run into that many cannons. You think, well, let's not do that, let's wait for reinforcements. And although the reinforcements are somewhat slow to arrive because the production capacity is not fully optimized yet, then you go in again and you think, well, yeah, one down, good, another one down, losing some Hydras, more cannons down, yep, one more, losing Hydras. Will we get through? Well, perhaps, I don't know. Let's move in there. 5 more cannons left. We can take this, we can take this. And there are the reinforcements. Can we take this? More aggressive, more aggression. And now we've got a lot of carriers, but they're all oh god, and this is a very aggressive play by Killabot. The last 2 games it took more bases, it took longer to mass up the Hydras, but now it's just moving in with a handful of 15, 20 Hydras, now taking out the natural, and now the money for Ximt is running out. And if you look at the map, we've got 1, 2, 3 bases and a little bit of upgrades, and the natural is gone. All the buildings are still standing, but the probes are dead, and now the ground army, perhaps the ground army in conjunction with these carriers can take out the Hydras, but there are so many Hydras, and if you look at the map, more are being filed in from everywhere, from 3 bases, not from everywhere, but the carriers now can't do very much, and the Hydras are in the main base, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. And at this time, Ximt decides it needs a Protoss. It's a robo facility for an observer, and that is not what you do. You should now be building units, or perhaps Dark Templar or something to tilt the balance of the game. But okay, now the carriers are starting to fight, but there are so many Hydras, and the natural has gone already. There's so much time being lost. Meanwhile, 4th base come off the ground for Killabot. Have we got? No, it hasn't. I think this is the natural. It hasn't taken the natural. That's interesting. Was this? I don't know. I think this was the main base, but there are too many Hydras now. Supply-wise, below 60 for Protoss, and climbing up to the 90s. More carriers is not always the answer, because you haven't got the minerals. You haven't got the minerals to produce interceptors, and you need to kill these Hydras once while they're here, and not while they're here in the clump, because okay, with the cannon, no, there are too many. And it looks like Killabot is going to take its first tournament victory, and that is something very impressive. Marian Diveka came back after 2 years of inactivity. I heard he also took a break from work to be able to update his bot, and I am so happy for him that it paid off. Because you mustn't underestimate how hard it is to write this kind of AI. It's such a complex game, and although this this level of gameplay looks very simple, you need to navigate this map, you need to balance production with economy, and you need to encounter the enemy and do something with that to be able to win the game, and that is by no means easy. Also, if you know the joke, some StarCraft 2 player once said, after finding out about Brood War, there is no AI in Brood War. If you are playing Brood War, you yourself are the AI, and that with regards to the pathing. So if you If you've got 5 Dragoons and want to move them up the ramp, or if you've got 10 Hydras and you move them up the ramp, they inevitably will get stuck and they won't do anything. You see that here as well. So 3 Hydras are making up its mind. Will we go here? Will we go there? How will we get there? And the relative smoothness of this bot's movement, it's not getting stuck anywhere. That's an accomplishment in itself as well. Of course, Ximp, the Protoss, evaded that difficulty because air units don't have any zones they can't fly over, so that's somewhat easier. But Killerbot is a work of art, and I would recommend, if you watch our stream, that you watch out for a game where it will play Terran, because if it plays Terran, it's at its most ferocious, and it will Hydra, Zergling, Lurker, anything to death. It is really evil. And well, there is a Pantera album which accurately describes it, and that's a vulgar display of power. I am well, full disclosure, I'm a Zerg man myself. I like Zerg the most. I think it's the most elegant race. I think the Zerg are the most cuddly things that can be imagined. I was a fan of Jaedong and He Who Must Not Be Mentioned, Mr. Majayun. I think it's well played. Zerg game is absolutely beautiful. So I think that this tournament victory by Killerbot, by Marian Diveka, is well deserved. He has worked so hard over all these years. He's now come back. He's even put his job on hold to be able to code his bot. And that was the last building. Killerbot takes the Student StarCraft AI Tournament 2015. Xim, Thomas Weider, thank you very much for participating. See you next year. And this was it. After a marathon broadcast, we have brought to you the semi-finals, the 3rd and 4th place match, a man versus machine match, and then ultimately the finals of Killerbot versus Ximp. Killerbot by Marian Diveka wins the Student StarCraft AI Tournament 2015. Congratulations! Visit our website to watch more games, to get into coding, to learn to harness the power and the awesomeness of Brute War AI, most beautiful game in the world. One last time, everyone who has been contributing and helping with this tournament, with the publicity, with the server, with the technology, thank you very much. And Marian Diveka, congratulations on winning your very first tournament. Hope to see you again next year. Goodbye!